Like Dorothy stepping out into Munchkinland, the female Earthling made her way down the ship's ramp. My fellow Jutsulki looked on in awe. Before them stood a genuine, living, breathing human Earthling. They fought to keep their elaborate wigs on their heads as they bowed low and giggled politely.
You weren't kidding about the wigs.
It helps to appear more human.
And how long will they stay bowed?
Until you tell them to stop. The female Earthling clapped her hands above their heads.
Okay, enough with the bowing.
They were mesmerized and giggled like school children to one another.
Enough of this. Where are the transmission machines?
Before I could answer, someone very familiar to me stepped forward, wearing his favorite mohawk wig. It was my best friend, Red, and as usual, he was sweating more than most.
I would like to be the first to officially welcome you to Terra,
He said.
My name is Red Barnum, and I can assist you with any questions you may have.
Red bowed and waited.
Stand up.
Red quickly stood and adjusted his wig.
All Earth data is stored in the Hall of Transmissions, just a short distance from here. But if it is not too much to ask, we wish for you to briefly join us at the Great Amphitheater. We would be very grateful and have waited a long time for this day.
Fine.
We leave at once!
Red, along with the rest of the crowd, scampered down the sidewalk toward the amphitheater.
Where are they going?
To the amphitheater. I'm surprised you agreed to join them.
So am I.
The female Earthling raised her wrist to her mouth.
Rusty, keep the shields up until I get back.
The ship's cargo door lifted off the ground, taking chunks of wet grass and dirt with it. The female Earthling flipped the safety on her thigh pistol and scanned the perimeter.
It's quiet.
Everyone is in the amphitheater.
Everyone?
Of course.
How do you know?
Jutsulki have waited their entire lives for this moment. Nobody would dare miss it. As we made our way through the city streets, familiar buildings dragged back old memories. I watched Back to the Future 5 times in a row at the theater to my left, then 10 more after that. I often ate breakfast across the street at the 24-hour breakfast, lunch, and dinner nook. When Han Edison Roy designed the first bicycle on Terra, based off the famous Earth Beach cruisers, I was the first to buy one. And when it became socially acceptable to ride them in public, I was the first as well. I would ride that bike up and down the streets for hours. To everyone's dismay, we passed by the vintage cars parked along Broadway. All were exact replicas, all in pristine condition. They held no working parts, but I hoped they would someday. I always imagined myself to be the first Jutsulki to drive a car. As we walked, the female Earthling gazed up at the buildings.
This place feels strangely familiar.
Well, it should. Our entire society is modeled after cities of Earth. This section is designed to match your New York. A few blocks down is Tokyo, and if you turn left, Moscow.
Moscow? I'd like to see that.
While crossing over Baker Street, she paused to examine one of the many trees that lined the road.
Maple trees?
Carved from solid stone, I said proudly. And the leaves are made from a type of aluminum. Well, at least we think so. They make great solar collectors and power our entire civilization. She slid her hand over the carefully chiseled bark.
It's been a long time since I was under a tree.
Did we do a good job? She gazed up into the tree's canopy as a warm breeze forced the leaves to dance.
Yes, you did good.
The steep green walls of the amphitheater appeared in the distance, the last of the pre-Earth transmission structures, a remaining monument to the forgotten times. I had spent much of my childhood imagining the great battles that must have taken place within its stoic walls. I have never seen it completely filled. You should be honored. She shrugged. Shafts of sunlight fired down from the amphitheater's quartz ceilings as we made our way into the mighty hall. Red appeared from behind the curtain and wobbled over to the female Earthling's side.
How would you like to be introduced? Earthling? Human being?
I prefer Santa Claus.
Red scampered through the heavy curtains and made his way to the edge of the stage. We Jutsulkies are not very good with sarcasm. The hum of the crowd reduced to an occasional mumble and cough. I peeked through the curtains. Red stood straight and proud as sweat trickled out from under his wig.
Proud and honorable Jutsulki, we have pondered the heavens and its great mysteries for eons. We have spent lifetimes deciphering the great messages from the skies. But no more! For today, my proud and honorable Jutsulki, our time has finally arrived.
He's really building this up.
Red has a flair for the dramatic.
Today, we find ourselves at that one moment in time, that one precious moment that will change life as we know it. Forever!
The crowd clapped in controlled agreement. Red turned to me and smiled with 2 thumbs up.
Fellow Jutsulki, I am honored, humbled, and delighted to present to you Santa Claus!
The female Earthling rolled her eyes as she pushed through the heavy curtains and onto the stage. Gasps and muffled screams rose from the crowd. The female Earthling scanned the wigged audience, then stepped to the center of the stage.
Where's the microphone?
I peeked my head further through the curtains. You do not need one. She took a deep breath and addressed the crowd.
I am not Santa Claus. However, I am an Earthling.
Voices swirled around the arena like butterflies trapped in a vacuum. The female Earthling raised her hand.
Please, please. You need to know the truth.
The female Earthling paused and dipped her gloved hand into her pocket. Slowly, she pulled out a small item and studied it. I stretched my neck to steal a glimpse, but the object was too small to identify. She studied it for a moment more, smirked ever so slightly, then slid it back into her pocket.
Being an orphan,
She said.
it's nice to know there's a place I can come and feel at home.
The crowd erupted, nearly knocking me backwards. I had never felt such emotion from any Jutsulki, let alone all of them at once. I would say they were simply mimicking what they observed many times in the Earth transmissions, but this seemed different. It was real, and it took all my strength to stop from joining in. Unfazed by the crowd's response, the female Earthling flipped a quick wave and walked off the stage. Red hopped and clapped as the female Earthling pushed through the curtains. She looked determined, and I knew Red's excitement was not helping matters. The female Earthling placed her gloved hand on top of Red's head and steadied his excitement with a light squeeze.
Now bring me to the Hall of Transmissions.
We all hustled off stage towards the exit door, where we were met by a steady flow of Jutsulki exiting the amphitheater. At first we went unrecognized. It helped that the female Earthling was crouched low, but eventually, those close to us caught on.
That was amazing!
One Jutsulki shouted.
So elegant, so human.
We quickened our pace, but it was no use. I kept my eyes on the female Earthling, hoping she would not decide to clear a path in her usual death-touch way. The circle of Jutsulki grew tighter. Some just wanted a close peek at her. Others shouted random questions.
How does Santa know who's naughty or nice?
What does a banana taste like?
Who in fact let the dogs out?
A heftier Jutsulki wearing an apron and a mop-top wig pushed his way through the crowd. He approached with a plate of fresh-baked cookies held high above his head.
Do these taste like chocolate chip cookies?
He asked. The female Earthling snatched a cookie, scanned it with her wrist, then took a nibble.
Tastes like mayonnaise.
I invented mayonnaise!
We pressed on, slowly moving toward our destination. Red controlled the crowd using his back as a shield. I held his shoulders to keep him balanced. Eventually, we made our way to Red Square, just 50 feet from the Hall of Transmissions.
Is there any other way into this place?
There is a small door around the side. Wait for my signal.
Red wiggled loose of my grasp and barreled his way through the crowd. After a few tense moments, he appeared high on the stairs of the hall. Red called out to the mob of Jutsulki below him, to no avail. He tried again, this time waving his mohawk wig above his head.
Fellow Jutsulki, hear me now. I have important news about the Earthling.
The crowd turned toward Red and quieted down. Seizing the moment, Red rolled his eyes back, grasped his chest, and doubled over. It was his greatest performance.
Very subtle.
Red continued his one-man show, flopping on his back and wildly splashing around. The crowd rushed to see what he was up to.
Let's move.
We hustled around the corner, toward the small door leading inside the Hall of Transmissions. The female Earthling looked around, then pushed her way through the door. As I went to follow, I was stopped by a clammy hand on my back.
Dean Kilmer?
Said a nasally voice.
I knew it was you.
It was Charlie Slugworth, an old schoolmate, and someone I hoped to forget when I left Terra.
I barely recognized you without your wig.
Charlie smacked me on the back, sending a bolt of pain up my spine. Look, Charlie, I really must...
I cannot believe you returned.
Charlie slipped his curly black wig off his head, then used it to dab the sweat from his forehead.
But that is typical of you.
I do not have time right now. I ran for the door, but Charlie blocked my route with his swollen belly.
Where are you going?
He grabbed hold of my wrist and squeezed, forcing my hand to go numb.
How did someone like you convince a human Earthling to come back here?
Charlie asked.
We assumed you died.
This is your last chance, Charlie. Please, let go, Charlie shouted towards the crowd.
Hey everyone, I found Dean.
Charlie tugged my arm, nearly dislodging my elbow from its socket. Let go, Charlie. Charlie waved his wig at the crowd.
Over here. I caught Dean, the loser.
A heat grew in my belly. Charlie bullied me my entire life, and I never fought back. The years I had spent and wasted trying to convince Charlie to stop, all the anger and frustration gathered in the pit of my stomach. Charlie tugged my arm again, then he grinned wide, exposing his gapped teeth.
If you do not like it, do something about it.
Have it your way, Charlie. I reached back, balled my free hand, and swung around hard, hitting Charlie square in the jaw. Charlie dropped to the ground like a sack of bingle nuts. I could not believe it worked, and I found myself staring down at Charlie as he wiggled on the ground in pain.
Dean, hurry.
I heard the female Earthling's voice say. I snapped out of it, scrambled to the door, and dashed inside.
What took you so long?
I ran into an old acquaintance. She held the door closed with her back.
Where's the lock?
We have no locks on Terra. There is no need for them.
There is now.
She grabbed a chair and jammed it up against the door handle.
There. Terra's first lock.
We made our way down the corridor to a room quite familiar to every Jutsulki. The Great Hall. We would go as young Jutsulki, but to see it with older eyes was something to behold. I always enjoyed the iconic Earth statues that stood guard over the tall data storing machines, and the beautifully decorated domed ceiling, painted to best represent Earth and its solar system.
So, explain it all to me.
These are the machines responsible for collecting and arranging the Earth transmissions.
And how do they do that?
Algorithms and a few other ways I do not fully understand. They say the machines are correct 99.8% of the time.
And the other 0.2%?
You get a post-apocalyptic Robin Hood that guides several ocean-stranded Earthlings to dry land. Eventually it got fixed, though many enjoyed the incorrect version better. The female Earthling strolled around the oval room, taking time with each statue, as if enjoying a moment with old friends. Upon reaching Medusa, she halted.
She didn't always look like this,
she said, staring up at the snake-haired Gorgon.
A curse turned her into this monster.
Medusa is very popular on Terra. She moved on, past the statue of Ripley, spent a brief moment with Indiana Jones, and finally stopped in front of the largest machine in the room, guarded by the Man of Steel himself. This is the one you want. Once the transmissions are arranged, they are loaded into this machine. We call it Bert.
Are you going to tell me why you call it Bert?
Oh, it doesn't stand for anything. We just like the name. The female Earthling ran her hands along the machine.
So, how do I get everything from Bert onto my ship?
I pointed at a small hole near the center of the machine. You place your finger inside that hole. She peered into the small opening.
And what does that do?
Makes the card pop out. The female Earthling slipped her finger inside the hole, causing the machine to roar with excitement. Then suddenly shut down. Everything went dark, except for a solitary bright shaft of light that shined down from the ceiling.
Is this normal?
No. These machines never stop running. The machines revved up, then shut down. Revved up, shut down.
I think I broke it.
A slight hum filled the room. Then an image appeared on the ceiling. 2 humans. One tall bearded man with salt and pepper hair and a bow tie. The other, a red-headed, freckled-faced girl with a bright smile. Both posed near a telescope in a field of clovers. The female Earthling quickly blocked the image with her hand.
Time to go. Get me the transmissions. Now.
I reached around the machine, pulled out a transmission card, and handed it to her.
It's all on here?
Well, not all of it. Everything that's been deciphered.
Put it back in.
But the rest is scrambled. You will not be able to... She pressed the card against my chest.
I want all of it.
I slipped the card back into the machine and pressed the button to load all the data. Then, a distant voice rang out.
Dean, where are you hiding?
It was Charlie. But before I could respond, the female Earthling yanked me behind the machines and out of view. Charlie waddled deeper into the room, fiddling with his wig as he searched.
Come on, Dean. I know you are in here.
The female Earthling hushed me, then stepped out from behind the machine, startling Charlie, causing him to stumble onto his backside.
Why are you all so clumsy?
Charlie quickly climbed to his feet, then brushed off his backside with his wig.
We are not used to this type of excitement.
The female Earthling stepped closer.
Did anyone see you come in?
No. They are all busy watching Red act like a fool.
The female Earthling reached around the machine, removed the finished transmission card, and stashed it into her leg belt.
Time to go.
She pushed past Charlie and headed for the door.
Wait! They have a traditional Earth meal prepared for you. A hamburger with french fries and a soft drink. It is orange flavored. Well, we think it is orange. It is the color orange.
Give it to my old partner.
Dean? No. It was made for you. Dean is of no significance.
I ducked further behind the machines, peeking out just enough to see. The female Earthling stopped and turned to face Charlie, and she did not look amused.
Of no significance? And what would make you say that?
I assure you, he is worthless.
The female Earthling pointed her gloved finger at Charlie's nose.
Anyone willing to volunteer for an obvious suicide mission has my respect.
Volunteer? Is that what he told you?
Charlie turned toward me, his eyes mere slits.
Dean was told to leave.
And why is that?
We are a long-living species with a tightly controlled population. Those who stray from the norm are removed. Dean was, well, not normal.
And what made him not normal?
We emulate you Earthlings in our own ways, but never their behaviors. No self-respecting jet-sulky would ever behave like an Earthling. But Dean could not help himself. He wanted to be human. How absurd. No offense to you, of course.
She stepped closer, forcing Charlie to clumsily back up.
And where exactly do you send those who don't fit in?
To Zarpan, where all the exiled choose to go. All except Dean. Of course he turned down peaceful living at that paradise moon. Is that not ridiculous?
I ducked further behind the machine, afraid of what the female Earthling might say.
Dean has always been a nuisance. Just like his friend Red. But he'll be banished soon enough.
The female Earthling looked over to me, then smirked.
Sounds like you banish your heroes.
What? No, you are confused. Sure, we call them heroes, but that is for tradition's sake. Dean is worthless, I assure you. Worthless.
Charlie shuffled over to the machine and grabbed my arm.
Dean, get out here and tell her. Tell her you are worthless. Tell her you are no hero.
I fought back, doing my best to remain hidden.
Dean, get out here.
It was the first time the female Earthling called me by my name, and it took a few moments to sink in.
Let's go. We're leaving.
We are?
Captain's orders.
As I hustled to catch up, another transmission card popped out from the machine. I quickly grabbed it and shoved it into my pants, then ran to the female Earthling's side.
Good. You should go with her. It is for the best.
I knew Charlie was right. It was for the best.